Hey folks, Würfel here, and today we take a closer look at how to get started in the dice making hobby. For everyone here who's not knowing what I'm talking about, we're talking about handmade resin cast dice. Dice like these. So here we have some handmade resin cast dice, and this hobby has become quite popular in the last couple months, and the resources for it have become so large that I think it's time to give you a little bit of an overview, a little bit of a guide. And first of all, there's research. You need to learn the things that you want to practice with, and there are plenty of things you can do. On my channel I have a few mold making tutorials, casting tutorials, finishing and all that stuff. And of course this gives you a good starting point, but that is not everything. I can't cover everything that is out there, not every technique and stuff, and maybe there are other things that you should considering. So for that reason you should do some research, and for that you have my channel. Then there is Rybonator, who has a great YouTube channel with a lot of tutorials, especially when it comes to special styles of dice. So if you look for a specific style, you find some tutorials over there. And the best place of all to go is the Dice Making Discoveries. Dice Making Discoveries is a group over at Facebook aiming for hobby dice makers, and they have a large file section where they have not only listed tutorials like mine or Rybonator's tutorials and those of others, they also have written tutorials, they have guides, they have material lists, they have all the things that you can put into dice, all the different styles and techniques, and there are so many things you can take care of. So invest the time to get yourself a good basic, and then invest the time to pick out the things that you personally like. So for example, I'm very basic on the design of my dice, so I do mostly simple one or maybe two colored dice, and I keep things easy. But if you want to go crazy with liquid cores, or if you want to go with insane opal looking dice or glitters and all that stuff, then there are other places where you can find these informations, and you find them at best in the Dice Making Discoveries group. Of course, besides the big file section where you can browse all the things that you need, you find posts of folks out there. You can search the group for the topic that you like and get yourself even deeper into it. And if you've done that research, if you get yourself the basics and get yourself the information for the specific type of knife that you need, I think then you're well covered for starting the hobby itself. And for starting the hobby, you should consider some things that you definitely need to take care of. First thing, safety. You see here nitrile gloves, safety glasses. I even have a respirator for some of the materials that I use. You find the safety information for the materials that you're working with in those data sheets coming with the materials. I also have a video on safety, and you find plenty of safety information in those groups. And if you have any concerns, if you have any problems with something, make sure to ask the manufacturer for advice. He should know what to do. Safety is the highest priority in this hobby. You're working with some toxic and nasty things over there, and you should make sure that yourself and the people around you always stay safe. When you did all your research and you have your basics and you have your specific car that you want for your special type, then it comes to the point where you want to start your first practices. For that, take the material you want to use, try to get a small sample package of it, and do your first tries. And you will notice not everything will go smoothly. There are always little issues, but if you have these issues, you can then search for these issues and try to find solutions for them. Don't throw everything away like, oh, it's garbage, it's not working. No, it's not a problem of the material, it's not a problem of your mold or anything like that. It is mostly a problem of you need a bit of time to get suited to the materials that you use, to the how to handle them properly. Take this time and you will be paid off in the end, I can guarantee you. Okay. When you're at the point that you start this hobby in the practical part, so after all your research, we come to the point of your workshop. So, you definitely need a safe space to work. In my case, I have my own room for my workshop. Most of the folks that are starting with this might not have access to that, but make sure you have an area where you can work with your materials without harming yourself or others. So, first rule of thumb, make sure you have space to work. So, you see all my stuff that I need to catch and have on hand is placed in the back row, and in the front I like to have free space so I can put everything down. Also on equipment, I like to have these silicone mats. If something is dripping, it is not sticking to the silicone, so you can peel it off later and everything is fine. A little bit of the stuff that you need to have on hand. First of all, of course, the space, the silicone mat, or something else underneath to take on any drips. The material themselves, I also like to have them stored in one place with a mat underneath. If something is dripping, it will be catched. I have my safety stuff reachable. I have the tools that I need reachable. For example, for mixing, you need a scale. I like to have them in a plastic bag. Also, if something's dripping, it's protected and nothing creeps into the scale. You need mixing cups of all kinds and sorts. The best option are these silicone mixing cups. They are reusable. Then you of course might need smaller cups, bigger cups. You can also use them for mold making and all the kind of stuff. What especially you need, you find in your research phase. I just want to cover some of the basics that I think are pretty good to have on hand. The next thing is mold release. Whatever is suited for your materials, it makes the lifetime of your mold last much longer than without mold release. I personally highly recommend using mold release to keep your molds together. I have my molding system, but of course when you start, simple rubber bands do the job. Don't overdo it, but you will see you will need a lot of these over the time. Some folks out there use masking tape to hold their molds together. That works as well. Of course you need something to mix your resin. I like to use these mixing sticks here. I reuse them, so I always wipe them down after I use them. That little bit of material that is left on the surface cures as well, and they are fine to go in the next run. For silicone, I like to use a metal spatula, but of course wood is working as well. If you've done all your casting and you remove your dies, you will notice you need something to remove the spruce, so I like these flush cutters. For finer work or removing the flashing and all that stuff, you can use these disposable knives. So I like these scalpel knives, but of course X-Acto knives or others work as well. Just make sure you have a good sharp knife. And for disposable blades, I can highly recommend make yourself a little container where you can directly throw in the blades after you use them, just to make sure they are safe stored and you don't grab into them and hurt yourself. And I think that is the basic stuff that you should have on hand. Of course, one thing that I don't forget, paper towels. You will always have something that is dripping. Just make sure you have the paper towels on hand so you can directly wipe it away and don't risk to get it somewhere else. So I can highly recommend you wipe the wet material away from the threading when you close the lid again, so it don't get crusty and sticks to it. Okay, we have the safety part. We have the research phase. You know what you're doing. You got your first samples, you did your first tries, everything works nicely. and you want to go further. At this point, the first thing that you can improve is equipment, of course. So one of the biggest things for dice making is the pressure pot. This is like the holy grail of dice making. If you have this thing, it will solve a lot of your problems and it will make your life a whole lot easier. I want to mention here, this is not necessary. There are still folks out there producing nice, high quality dice without a pressure pot, without vacuum, just by their pure skills. So please don't think of this like, oh, I need one of these and they are so expensive. You can keep the hobby at a low scale level without it, but if you consider going any further, I can highly recommend the pressure pot. And of course, like with the other stuff, inform yourself up front what you want and make sure you know what you're getting there. And of course, you can also use this as a vacuum chamber. You see over there is my vacuum pump and my lid for the vacuum. A little compressor stands over there outside the camera. It's also very helpful because you can blow out your molds after you did some casting, and there's a little bit of flashing in there. Use the compressor to clean them. If you get to the point that your casting is on point, you know what you're doing, you're satisfied with your molds, you're satisfied with the styles that you're doing, then you might want to take the next step to get your very own dice, and that's the point of Dice Masters. For that reason, let me show you an example. This here is a D10 of my Schmiede set. This is a resin print that I already sanded but not polished yet. In the Dice Making Discoveries group, there's a guide made by Elizabeth Comer about how to model your own dice. There's also a file for a program that automatically generates a set of dice with just the type font that you put in there. And of course, there are some resources out there that do the job for you for a little bit of money, and they model the dice the way you like them, and they mostly offer printing services. I try to catch everything of that, like the Blue Mimic, Dalavandice, and the like, down in my description. That's a place where you can even improve on that and go a little bit deeper on that. But you also find ways to make this yourself in the groups, how to get your printer settings and all the things. So you can see the whole thing is evolving from I get some basic materials and playing around with it, up to I can do highly professional stuff in the end. And the only thing you need for this is a little bit of patience, a little bit of research to learn the things, and then you're good to go. If you consider selling your stuff, make sure to investigate on that topic as well. There are also resources like the Dicesellers Guild. There's the Handmade dice market where you can sell your stuff. Of course, you can do your own shop and all that stuff if you go even further like that. For everything considering this hobby, there's a place where you find the right information. Okay, I think I have covered everything in this video that I want to wrap up. Of course, there might be some points that I'm missing. If there are some sources out there that I forgot, please comment them down below. I try to add them to the description, but I also try to keep things focused and compressed and dense. I don't want to overflood new people here with too many information. This is just something I went from the small beginning and some testing up to highly professionally made handmade dice. I think wherever you want to join in that, you find the route to go for that. And this is especially for the beginners, so I try to focus on the first part here and get you covered. So I hope this was helpful for you, and thanks for watching. I hope you spread it out to all the newbie dice makers out there. And if there's anything you want to know, feel free to send me a message, comment down below. ask me, ask the other makers, join the groups, and thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye!